Trenton Talks, WIMG 1300, and WPHY Channel 25 are proud to present In the Public Interest. Each week, we explore a new topic of interest for you, the public. We now join our host live from the WIMG studios.
Side with K-Row in the Public Interest. I have a very special show planned for you on today. I'm so glad that I have a chance to do the show because I didn't think I was going to. I forgot there was a fifth Tuesday in this month because October is so many things. There's Pastor's Appreciation, Breast Cancer Awareness, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so my special guest is Lady Stephanie. Welcome to The Other Side with K-Row.
Thank you.
And so this is really your first time, as far as I know, publicly addressing this, or is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, huge step for you. So thank you so much for taking that step and talking to us about it. But I think your story needs to be told for several reasons. First of all, because you are a First Lady. And second of all, because I've known you for all your life anyway, because I'm older, all your life. And I know your personality. I know you're a very strong personality person. I know that you don't let anybody get over on you for any reason. And so I wanted to talk to you to let people know that this could happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that I'm finding the more I talk to people, the more that I'm seeing that first ladies are victims of domestic abuse, because it's not always hands putting on. And so we're going to talk about some of the other symptoms. It's not always slapping, punching, pushing. Abuse is in the form of control, power and control.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first ladies are victims of this. And because of their position, a lot of time they don't want to talk about it. Did you find yourself in that position?
It wasn't that I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to talk about it. And then when I felt the need to talk about it, I wasn't sure who to talk to.
Wow.
And leading a church in another state, that made it very complicated. So I was working in New Jersey, traveling back and forth on the go a lot. And I couldn't talk to the women that I was leading.
Of course. Right.
Obviously not.
Right.
And then when I would talk to other first ladies, I didn't find that they were able to receive or even willing to be honest about how things were going, because it just always seemed like everything was just wonderful in their households.
Wow.
Right.
And we all know that that's just not the truth. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things that, and not to get off on a tangent, but that's one of the things that I really address in the church, is that we need to stop faking it until we make it, because we're putting this false facade out there. And even the Alcoholics Anonymous, they know that the first step to getting help is admitting that you have a problem. And nobody's home has everything going peachy 100% of the time. So you said you didn't feel it was appropriate. What did you mean? What do you mean by that?
I didn't feel it was appropriate because the circle that I was traveling in, he was their leader.
Okay.
So who could I talk to? I wasn't home a lot in terms of being in New Jersey. It was pretty much come home, work, and then I was hitting the road back and forth for Bible study. You know, whatever the reason was to go to Maryland, I was always there.
Okay.
So I didn't have people that I felt it was appropriate to talk to about my situation.
I got you. And I think that's another paradigm, if that's the right word, that first ladies and pastors fall into. Okay, when I'm ready to talk about it, who do I talk to? Certainly can't talk to the people that I'm ministering to. So that definitely is something that, if we're talking about the other side, the church needs to address. They need to have an outlet for first ladies, for pastors, to just come around and talk about our stuff and not be judged and not be, like you say, in an environment where everybody's acting like everything in their life is coming up roses all the time. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you meet this pastor?
So I was traveling during my summer months, which I do because I have the summers off. And I was at a restaurant. He pulled up on a motorcycle with
Oh,
a
wow.
friend, and my girlfriend that I was with at the time, she was just sort of teasing me, and every man that went by, she was like, "Can you take a picture with my girlfriend?"
Wow.
So it was sort of like a joke, and I wanted to, of course, because I'm that adventurous one,
Right.
I wanted to get on the bike, you know.
Oh,
so I
okay.
actually took pictures on the bike. We started talking. We didn't exchange numbers. I just took his number. Because I really didn't want to entertain a relationship or anything at that time.
Right.
And then one day I just decided to call, and we started talking. We became friends, and then one thing just led to another.
So when you met him at the restaurant, did you know at that
did
time
not.
he was okay?
I did not. And when I realized, I really wanted to go the opposite
Yeah.
direction. I was like, no, I can't do this.
Right.
This isn't for me.
Yeah.
And we just were really friends. And,
Okay.
you know, your mind doesn't tell your heart what to feel. So when my feelings started to change, I just really embraced it at that point.
So let's talk about the feelings changing. What made the feelings change from just wanting friendship to wanting more?
I'm not really sure, because I never felt like it was something that I wanted. It's
Okay.
just something that I desired after a while. It wasn't like a mental
Okay.
thing. It was just more a heart thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long was your courtship? How long did you date him, court him before you all got married?
So I met him in 2009, and we got married in 2012.
So a good long while.
Pretty good.
So now, you know what my next question is. During that time, were there any red flags or even things going off like something's not right?
I would say possibly the something's not right, but I thought it was more, you know, he had fallen upon hard times. He was struggling through some things, and I just believed in his potential to get back to where he needed to be. But it wasn't anything that would have made me think it would have turned into a domestic situation
Right.
in any way. Yeah.
So there was no control, no over jealousy, none of that during the...
No,
Okay.
not at all. Initially, I had decided I did not want anything more than a friendship, because he was so fly by the seat of his pants. He just wasn't dependable. He would say we were going to do something, and then he wouldn't show up. And I said, listen, we can't go any further.
Right.
And when I started making statements like that, he started committing even more.
Wow.
Okay, well, then I'm going to commit to you. I'm going to show you I'm serious. So he would designate certain days, because, you know, being a pastor, you have your Bible studies. You
Right.
have different things that you have to do. So he actually set days aside. And that made me think he was serious. So,
Okay.
Willing to commit to this. So I gave it a try.
Okay. And so you have this wonderful wedding, go on the honeymoon.
Somewhat.
And it was nice. I was at your wedding. It was very nice.
Yes.
And when did the first incident happen?
So the first incident happened, and actually wasn't with me. It was with my daughter.
Oh.
He actually got in her face, took her phone, threw it.
How far into the marriage was this?
Very early. I want to say maybe even the first month. I wasn't even at the house. I was out with my stepdaughter. My daughter was at the house. His son was at the house. The son and my daughter were sort of doing a jokey thing back and forth. He came in, thought it was something that it wasn't, got involved, and it just blew up unnecessarily. That was the first sign that there was some type of anger going on, that it escalated much too quickly,
Right.
you know. But with me, I want to say it was...
Well, before you even get to that incident,
Okay.
so then how did you handle that incident? First of all, was your daughter upset by it?
Very much so.
Okay.
It was very hard, because I felt like it was too early for me to make a decision between my daughter
Yeah.
and my husband. And
Right.
this was just too much. I didn't see it coming. And you know Lauren, so she has a strong personality as well.
Right.
And it was, I'm going to call my dad,
Oh, God.
you know, right. And I told her she had to do what she had to do. I was not going to try to stop her from doing that. And I just didn't want to get in the middle of it any
Right.
more than necessary. And I don't think she involved him at that point. I can't imagine that she did, because he never reached out.
Right.
You know, and I think she was just willing to give him a chance.
So you kind of just left it between the two of them. You didn't get involved.
No,
in it.
I did. I had
Okay.
to, but I didn't want to. I was
Okay.
forced to, and it was just hard, because it was definitely a pull. Well, I'm your husband, but she wasn't. She's not the type of person that would force me to.
Right,
You know,
okay,
and then,
right.
you know, our bloodline's thick. So
Right.
we just do what we have to do.
Right.
And I think she could rest in that, knowing that I would never, you know, go against that.
Okay.
You know, and I just tried to balance it. I tried to hear both sides, you know, and it just somehow worked out. Lauren is not a grudge holder.
Right.
So it made it very easy for her to move forward as long as he was willing to respect certain things.
Okay. And
that's
so
how
you
it
thought
happened.
that's it,
Thought
squashed.
it was squashed,
it's
done and
over.
over with.
Okay. Growing pains of blending a family.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then.
And then it started, I would say, more with aggressive drinking. That's when I saw the behavior change. And
And let me ask you a question. So now, was he drinking like that while you were dating him?
no.
Okay.
No. I did know that he drank, but I didn't know it was so excessive.
Okay.
And Lauren actually pointed that out one day too, jokingly. And then it sort of, I started to pay attention to it a
Right.
little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what happened? How far into the marriage now, or how much longer after this incident with Lauren did the incident where you actually were like, "Oh, this is a problem"?
So end of March 2014, I believe it was.
And you got married in.
November of 12.
Okay.
Right, so less than 2 years.
Okay.
And it started with just very strange behavior. I was at work. He sent me a video of something that he wanted me to see, but I'm a school teacher and not supposed to have a cell phone out. I
Right.
was being observed by the superintendent of schools.
Right.
Didn't touch the phone. And when I picked my phone up, he had a whole argument with me
Wow.
in text messages, and I was supposed to take my mom to Maryland to get her car, and I'm a woman of my word, so when
Right.
I got to the house, he wanted to talk about the messages and his argument because it wasn't mine.
Right.
And I said, I told my mom I was going to take her. I traveled. We went to Maryland, and from the time before I got to the turnpike, and you know how close I live to the turnpike,
Right.
he was just blowing up my phone. The threats began. I'm going to burn the house down.
Oh, my
I mean,
goodness.
it became very, very aggressive in that 2-hour period of time.
Wow.
Right.
Was your mother aware that this was going on?
She didn't know exactly what was going on, but she picked up on it, and she told me if I needed to go home, it wasn't a problem.
Wow.
Let's turn the car around and go back. And
Wow.
I said, no,
Okay.
I'm going to take you. I promised you I would take you to get your car, and that's what we're going to do.
And when you got home,
When I got home, at that point, he had convinced me that he had calmed down, but a whole lot happened in between. He had changed the locks on the house.
wait, from the time you left to go to Maryland to the time you got back home,
Yes.
he had changed the
Changed
locks.
the locks, lost the key. Lauren couldn't get in, and I had called the cops because he kept threatening to burn my house down.
Right.
So the cops met him and Lauren at the house, and he lied about that. It turned into an argument.
An argument with him and the police.
And the police officer,
Oh, wow.
and he was saying, no, my wife told me to do this. And Lauren's like, he's lying. My mom didn't tell him to change those locks. So,
Wow.
right.
Wow. And so what's going through your head at this time?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that.
Were you thinking, because I can only put myself into those shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and were you thinking, oh my God, I've made a horrible mistake?
Yes, I just thought this man had problems that were so much greater than I realized. And then when I did come home, he convinced me at that point, almost 3, well, you know, it takes a long time to sign papers for a car. By the time we got back, it was pretty late, and he convinced me that he was calm and he just wanted to talk to me. And I said, well, you can't stay here, but I will talk to you. And I went out to talk to him, and it was definitely the biggest mistake because we never made it off the street, and that's when it just escalated into a horrific situation.
Wow. Who called the cops? The neighbors?
Well, I actually did.
Okay.
We were driving down the road. He snatched my phone. He had me, and he was in my face. He was telling me he had told me to never call the effing cops on him. And I tried to get out the car. When I tried to open the door, he pressed the gas. I flew out the car. He didn't realize I was out the car, so he's driving away. He stops the car. When he realizes I'm out, I'm rolling, and I see him coming back, so I run. I grab a fence. I'm trying to hold on to the fence. I couldn't get home in time. He dragged me off the fence, tried to get me in the car. I kicked my body off the car before he could get me in. I put my feet up against it. A car came down the street. I started flagging the car, like,
Wow.
help me, help me, help me.
Wow.
And when I guess he snapped to himself at that point because he got in the car and took off. So I started running down the street. He turned around and came back. I knew I couldn't make it home, so I stopped at a neighbor's and just banged on the door.
Wow.
I was like, I'm a teacher. Let me in, please. You know me. I live here. Let
Right,
me in.
right.
And the woman didn't want to let me in, and her husband said, let her in.
Wow.
But he said he saw the whole thing, which I didn't know.
Her husband saw the whole thing.
He saw him trying to drag me off the fence and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we're coming up against the break. I wanna talk about the aftermath of that, and then what was going on through your mind, and then when the next incident happened. Okay. So I'm talking to Lady Stephanie, First Lady, strong personality, and yet a victim of domestic violence and abuse. It can happen to anybody, and the purpose of this month and this show is to raise awareness, and for the church to do something, to have ministries for first ladies, for pastors, and for women and men, because it happens to men also, so that there's a safe environment where we can talk about these things and get help. We'll be back with more The Other Side with Cairo and the Public Interest right after this.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax.
We started our company 10 years ago in an effort to help our fellow Christians experiencing tax issues resolve their matters by taking a simple 3-step approach.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys that specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results. We're also a small firm who will treat you like family, not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed." Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
And we're back with The Other Side with Cairo in the Public Interest. My special guest is Lady Stephanie, and we're talking about your story of being a victim of, and I hate using that word because we're gonna talk about the victory after the victimology. But at the time, you were a victim of domestic abuse. Now, let me just ask you a question. At the time, did you think of yourself or even were aware that this is domestic violence?
With the car incident?
That whole incident right there.
Strangely enough, I would have to say no. I knew that it was a major problem, and at that time I told him we couldn't go on like that. The drinking had to stop. He had to get help or I was done. And of course came the tears, came the promises, stop the drinking, go to counseling, and then things turn around and it's good. But only for a period of time.
Okay, so he did, because that was going to be my question. He did go to counseling. And that's the thing that I want to point out is that there's a cycle. And they call it the honeymoon period and then the abuse, which is always followed again by honeymoon period. The tears, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again. The flowers, the candy, the gifts, whatever I have to do. And then it happens again. Right. So now how long was the honeymoon period after this incident? Well, first of all, after the incident, how did you even come back to talk to him? Because I know you had told him he had to leave, and then, so what happened? What was
Cell phones.
Oh, okay.
It just blew my phone up.
Wow.
Because at the time, remember I said in the car, he took my phone.
Right.
So I didn't have a phone. I didn't have anything on me. The neighbor let me use the phone, called the cops. The cops came. They took me down to the station, and then they took me to the emergency room because they wasn't sure whether I had a concussion or something, because I did hit my head, knees scraped up, arms and stuff from the roll. Which I had none of those, thank God.
Yeah.
And then it was at that point I was able to reach out to my mom and Lauren to let them know I was okay. He walked in the house, and Lauren, of course, is, where's my mom?
Yeah.
And he said, she's not here.
Wow.
And she said no. She said he sat down on the galley, held his head, threw my phone on the counter, and walked out. So now they're concerned because they have no clue where I am, and my phone is there, and he's gone.
Oh, man.
Right.
Oh,
so,
man.
Tragic.
Yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah. And then, to be honest with you, I don't remember a lot from that point on. I remember going to the emergency room. I don't remember how I got home. Still. And it wasn't until this year that I figured out what house I ran in. I would ride down the street. And
so you didn't even know? Oh, my.
I can't remember.
And they never came to...
So the gentleman actually started cutting my lawn when I went to Africa. And we were talking one day, and he said something about my husband and his feelings. And I was like, how do you know him? Or my ex. But he wasn't my ex at the time. I was like, how do you know him? He said, remember when you ran into my house?
Wow.
Right. And that's when he told me the whole story from his side. He said, I saw the whole thing.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, but I guess trauma does that to the brain because there are certain things that I still can't pinpoint, you know, and it's not something I talked about after counseling, so I just kept going.
And so in counseling, they didn't bring those things out?
Well, they did, but that was, again, back then. And then, you know, I mean, I'm teaching, I'm dancing, I'm leading, I'm all over the place. So, right. And it's not something that you want to just sit and think about day in and day out. I didn't realize I was suppressing anything. I just felt like I had dealt with it and had moved on.
So now, was there a period of time where he was out of the home and you have to do this, this, and this before you can come back?
Yes, that's when the locks were changed. And then I said, no, we have to go to counseling. Once we started going to counseling, then I agreed to let him come back.
And how long was that before he came back? How long was he out of the house?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. Okay. And so he came back, and when was then, how long before the next incident?
So
or do you even
14.
remember?
I want to say it was almost annually. Because I was actually sitting in the car trying to date things.
So then you, I'm sure, because again, I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. So then you probably are thinking, we got over that. It's been a year. No, nothing's happened. He's gone to counseling and everything is good. Oh, wow.
Right,
okay.
Right. The next incident, I remember it was around our anniversary. So I want to say it was, what did I say, the car was 13? 14, so it was probably 15. I remember being in Arundel Mills, and drinking was involved.
And that's a part
again.
of Maryland for people that don't know.
Drinking was involved again, and he got angry, and I don't even remember why. And he decided he was leaving, and he was taking my phone, my purse, my keys, everything, and he was going to just leave me in the hotel room, like he wasn't going to discuss this or whatever. I can't even remember how we got to that point, to be honest with you. So I stood in front of the door and I said, listen, you can leave, just give me my stuff so I can get out of here. I need to get back to Jersey. And he wouldn't, and that's when he pushed me to the floor, and I got a cut and a scar on my shoulder, bled the whole nine, and I felt like Tina Turner. Honestly, there was a hotel. The hotel that I was in was here. There was a parking lot, then it was like a strip of like trees, and then there was another parking lot and a hotel on the other side, which happened to be a Hilton Garden Inn, of which I was a Hilton Honors member.
Okay.
And I went across the street, and his iPad was there, so it was the only communication I had. I went across the street and I walked in the hotel. My shoulder's bleeding. I said, listen, my husband's been drinking. I'm not sure, what's going to happen. I have no identification. I don't have any money, but I'm a Hilton Honors member. I have a card on file, and I have points. Please give me a room.
Wow.
And he did.
Wow.
He did.
Wow.
And then he walked in And he just sort of did the stalking thing. He just walked back and forth with the slow stare, whatever. And he said, "Is that him?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I'll call the cops." And then he put in the system, under no circumstances, do not let this man have a key. He walked me to the room, and I stayed there.
Wow. And so then how did you get home from, you don't remember? Isn't that something?
Yeah, I
wow.
called my best friend because I called her. You know, you don't remember people's phone numbers anymore. And I
Right.
knew hers because
Right.
we had been friends since 1990. So I
Okay.
knew her number.
Okay.
So I could call her on the iPad because she had an iPhone. And I remember her saying she would come, and my goddaughter, her daughter is my goddaughter, and they were like, "Do we need to go get her?" And I was like, "Don't tell them."
Right.
You know, and and then again, the calls all night, blowing up my phone and stuff like that. But the whole transition from that point, I don't remember.
Wow. Wow. And so did you at what point did it hit you that this is abuse? And
So that to me didn't register on my radar
Still.
as abuse.
Wow.
Right. I just knew it was too much. I
let me
didn't-
just say, because for people listening, you have never been in that kind of relationship
Never.
before, okay?
Never.
Because I know people listening might be thinking, "How did you know?" Well, that she must have been in relationships like that before. No, you have never been in that kind of
No.
relationship before, and yet you're still not seeing this as
Right.
abuse.
Not at all. And I will say, I mean, you know, my first marriage, I was with my ex from 14 to 40.
Right.
That was my life.
Right.
And it was traumatic. And I think that because of the place that I was in emotionally,
Right.
he was able to convince me of a lot of things that had I been healthier,
Right.
he would not have been able to convince me of.
Right.
I
So
think it was that
and
more than
again, just to make
anything.
it clear, you really hadn't been healed from what happened with your first husband when you got involved with.
Right.
Okay.
Right, because I was actually still married, and he was still married, and we literally walked each other through divorces.
Wow. And so that emotional bond,
Right.
and so and so
we became pain partners.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this, and not in relationship to what I was going to talk to you about. Like this was even before we even decided to do the show, but I was thinking about that rebound relationship that is so dangerous because sometimes you're just wanting to get over the pain.
Right.
You're just wanting to get over the pain, and the person that helps you get over that pain is the one, and sometimes they're not the one.
Right.
Wow. And so that's what happened with you
I believe so.
and the pastor. I don't want to
do
call his
believe
name.
so.
Okay. So now, at what point was there another incident after that one?
So they were the worst.
Okay.
So I had one other incident where I was pushed to the floor. And after that, it was just the other things that come in on the power and control wheel.
Okay.
You know, trying to get me to, you know, put his name on the on the deed, or, you know, let him control the finances, or it was things like that. And then when I wouldn't, then he would withdraw or do something mean or whatever. It was things like that. And again, because I didn't have a black eye. I mean,
Right.
the scar, I looked at the scar every day.
Wow.
Every day, and he would say to me, "Why are you looking at it?" Because it's mine. It's on my body. And if you had done this, then, but it was always, well, you did, and because of it's that narcissistic personality, everything was my fault. Nothing was his fault.
I'm going to talk about that when we come back, because, and I think that's why a lot of times first ladies are victims, because we don't recognize, unfortunately, and I hate to even say it, a lot of times these pastors are narcissistic. And when we don't understand that that's what they are, we don't understand how that cycle of abuse even goes on. Narcissism is at the root of a lot of this. So we'll talk about that when we come back, because even that word narcissism, what does that mean? We're going to explain what that means. We'll be back. We're coming up against another break. You're listening to The Other Side with K-Row in the Public Interest. My guest is Lady Stephanie, and we're talking about domestic violence awareness. And we'll be right back after this.
The Worst Case Scenario Survival Experience is now open at the Franklin Institute. Start your crash course in surviving the weird, the wacky, and the worst. Take a plunge through 13 interactive scenarios that fill the survival gymnasium, fitted with expert advice geared to all ages. Learn to leap from a moving train, escape quicksand, and even survive an avalanche. The worst-case scenario survival experience at the Franklin Institute. Get tickets today at fi.edu.
Need a truck to move? Let Justin's Rental of Selman's BP save the day. Justin's has the right trucks for all commercial and residential moves. Justin's has the moving supplies and boxes available. Justin's Rental at Selman's BP has everything you need for your move at affordable prices, featuring the best in pickup trucks, 10 and 15-foot box trucks, and vans. Justin's Rental at Selman's BP is located at 2596 South Broad Street, across from the McDonald's in Hamilton. For your rental truck needs, call 609-888-3327. That's 609-888-3327. Justin's Rental at Selman's BP. If you are moving, we have the trucks to meet your moving needs.
And we're back with more of The Other Side with K-Roll in the public interest. My special guest is Lady Stephanie, and we're talking about domestic violence awareness. Stephanie is a teacher, a first lady, a dance instructor, a public speaker, a motivational speaker, all these different things. The last person for me that I would ever think would be a victim of this. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you. Beautiful, confident. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. And when we ended the last segment, you were talking about his narcissism, that he could never see from your perspective. It was only about how it related to him. Can you talk more about that? And I know with all of your degrees, you can talk expertly almost about narcissism.
I'm not sure that I'm an expert in that area, but I can give you an example that would make it very clear, I think, to people. Once I started receiving counseling from the bishop who ordained me, and he agreed to also go. We would go and we would sit down, and of course, it was my opportunity.
Your husband agreed to go?
He did agree to go.
Okay, okay.
And this was after I had been ordained.
Okay.
This was the same year when Aunt Lane died.
Okay.
So it was sort of like I felt like God took her and put Bishop in my life. So very similar personalities, just male-female. So we would go into counseling. Of course, women, we tell all. We just, we just open up and everything comes out. We would get in the car and he would be angry.
Yeah.
And he would say, I can't believe you went in there and told that man all that stuff about me and made me look bad.
It made
like
me look
that.
bad.
Right.
You know what? Before you even said it, I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yes.
Because that's the narcissist
Yes.
answer. You made
Yes.
me look bad.
Yes.
And this
so
is
my
not about you looking
question to
bad.
him was, but my question was, I never said it made you look bad.
Right.
Bishop never said it made you look
Right,
bad.
right.
And I said, did I say anything that was
Wasn't
not
true,
true?
right.
And he said no. I said, so what concerns me is that you're more concerned with how your truth makes you look,
Yeah.
but you don't seem interested in changing your behavior.
Wow.
That's a genuine concern of mine.
And that's a narcissist.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
they're concerned about how they look to people,
Absolutely.
but not willing to do
No.
anything. And another thing that I know about narcissists, and I hate to even say this, is that a lot of times it's so hard. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's very hard for them to change because they can only see things from their own perspective.
Yes.
And for me to admit that I was wrong as a narcissist is like the last thing. Most of the time, and I'm surprised. Did he ever tell you, I'm sorry?
He absolutely would. He would admit he was wrong, and he would say he's owning his.
Okay.
But, and then the but.
It was because you.
Right.
Okay.
Somehow,
Okay.
it would always come back to being someone else's
Yeah.
fault. And it wasn't just with me. It was everyone.
Everyone. So, okay, so now you talked about the bishop. So when did you decide I need to talk to somebody about this?
That year.
Okay.
And I said to him.
2014 or 2015? The first incidents,
I'm
was it
trying
the
to think
first
of-
incidents at the house or the one?
Well, actually both.
Okay.
Both took us to counselors, and then he would eventually stop going, and then there was a reason why that counselor just didn't work for him. And when I met Bishop, I thought, well, this one has to work. He's a man. He's from Baltimore.
Right.
This one should work for you. And
Right.
he agreed that he could talk to him. And that didn't work out well
Wow.
for him either. He actually eventually stopped going, and I continued to
Yeah,
go.
and I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you said that, because for women and men, because it does happen to men that this happens to, just because your spouse decides I'm not going anymore, that is not a reason for you to stop. I mean, whether or not you decide to stay in the marriage or leave the marriage, that counseling is something that needs to be ongoing, because you need to get yourself healthy.
Yes.
You need to be able, first of all, especially when you're living with a narcissist, and most abusers are, that you did not do anything to deserve this.
Right.
Did you ever feel like, well, maybe if I hadn't have done
Never.
such, okay.
Never.
Okay.
And he would try to convince me of that. And because of my personality, it just wasn't a good mesh for us. And then he would become angry because I wouldn't agree to it. And then, it was, oh, you harass women. And
Yeah.
I mean, you name it, right? You know
Yeah.
about that story.
Yeah.
So, but I never owned that. Never. Nor did I ever walk with shame. Like, oh my God, I can't tell people, because I knew it was not because of something that I had done. He
Right.
had a problem, and I stayed in it so long because I was a little torn between the God thing, my responsibility as a wife, as a first lady. I'm setting up women conferences, and
Right.
he's, turning
Right.
my life upside down, but I
Right.
had to keep going. That's the way I saw it, because I saw my calling as something that I had to, answer. And regardless of what was going on in my life, I was still committed to whatever that charge was.
Right.
So a lot of times that's what kept me going.
Wow. When did you decide enough is enough? I've had enough.
I want to say when I turned 49. I was like, this is it. The counseling. When he stopped going to counseling in Baltimore, and then it was I can't make things work here. And then he wanted to work more in Baltimore, and I was okay with that.
right.
I was
right.
okay. And that was when I think the healing for me really began. And I was able to see things clearly
Apart
because he
from
was
him,
no
away
longer
from him.
in my ear
Yeah.
as much. And I had that, it was my option at that point to talk to him or not, to
Right.
see him or not.
Right.
And it made me a lot stronger. And it helped me to realize that as much as my intentions were good,
Right.
it wasn't for my good.
Right.
And when I realized that my trying to help him was to my demise,
Yeah.
I realized I had to get out of it.
Yeah. How long did the marriage last?
6 years, it would be 7 years in November.
Wow. Wow. So now, power and control, because we heard maybe 2-3 instances of actual physical things that were done, but there was a lot of the power and control. And this is the thing that I want to talk about, is that on that wheel, there's a power and control wheel, and I talk about this every single year, every single October that I've done this show.
Yes.
Nowhere on that wheel are hands laid, our punches, our kicks, or anything like that. It's all about control. It's about financial control. It's about isolating you from your friends and family. It's about controlling your children. And thankfully, you guys didn't have any small children.
Right.
It's about male privilege and all of that. What were some of those things? And you had said, he wanted his name on the deed to the house and all those things. What were some of those specific things that you could say on the wheel that you saw more commonly than the punching, the kicking, and the pushing and all
I've
that?
been through it all.
Wow.
And I didn't realize it at first. I had 2 situations that were like a hostage type situation, and I didn't even see it as hostage. And as I tell my story and I think about it, it amazes me that I didn't put A and B together to get to see, but I really did not. It wasn't until I went to the police to get a protective order, and the police officer went out, and someone from the domestic, the charitable house came in.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, and I had never before. She put this will in front of me, and as I read it, I realized that I had experienced all of it. Isolation was the first. It was, I'm your husband, you're supposed to stick by me, things like that.
Pastors do that. I'm telling you, this is nothing that I have not seen over and over that your loyalty is to me.
Yes.
I'm your husband.
Yes.
I'm the pastor. You have to stick by me. You know, your responsibilities to God and all of that.
Yes.
So
the minimizing, the denying, the blaming.
the
that
minimizing.
was
Talk
very
about
strong.
that. And I want you to go through this because just like when the lady put this in front of you and you saw, this is me. Somebody is listening right now and is thinking, this is me. So the minimizing, what does that mean?
So minimizing, let's say if we're talking about when he pushed me to the floor and he was like, well, you know, Steph, I didn't mean to hurt you, but if you didn't stand in front of the door, but it's not like I punched you or nothing. I was just trying to get out the door. It was like, it was never, he wouldn't allow it to be what it really was.
Right.
And after a while, in the beginning, I didn't fall for it at all. And then after a while, I just got tired. I just got tired of the arguing. I'm not going to go back and forth. So I guess it was more of an acceptance. But every time I accepted, I removed myself a little bit more from the relationship.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
but it was completely not owning the magnitude of what he had done. You know, he told me I jumped out of the car.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, I'll stick with your story. If that's your story, then let's talk about it. Because anytime someone jumps out of a moving vehicle, they're
Right.
fearful of whatever is going on inside the vehicle. And they
exactly.
feel they have a better chance outside.
Right.
So no matter how
Either
you want to
way.
look at it.
Right.
But again, it would be minimized, you know. And I said, but the seriousness of it is you could have run over my skull.
Right.
I could have hit my head and had permanent brain damage.
Right.
A
I could have
lot
broke
could have
my
happened.
back. Right.
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 Paralyzed.
Right.
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 Right. But he would not own that part. He just kept, oh, come on, Steph, it wasn't like that. You just making it seem. And again,
Wow.
because I'm not talking to anyone, I
Right.
had no one else to say, no, Steph, you're right.
And that's what I'm thinking too. And this is why girlfriends are so important, is that somebody would have been able to say, look, something is not right about this. I remember an incident that I was there where it wasn't directed at you, but it was directed at another one of our cousin's husbands, and I remember thinking, but see, I didn't know the whole back line, but I remember thinking, oh my God, like it's not that serious.
Right.
And
Banging
that,
on the man's
yes.
car, come out here, we're going to deal with this.
And I
Yes.
heard it was even a lot that I didn't see. Like the part that I did see, I remember thinking, oh my God, like what's wrong with him? Like, and I remember like going to our other cousin, like, are you okay? Like, and she was like, no, it's fine. But I remember thinking, wow. But see, if I had known about the other instances that were happening around that,
Right.
I would have been like, we need to talk.
Right.
We need to talk. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what else on the power and
Male
control wheel?
privilege.
What is that? Yeah. First of all, tell people what that is, and then an example.
So here it's saying treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one who defines men's and women's roles.
Wow. Okay.
And he clearly felt like that was his
Wow.
position, which was really hard for me because, as you know, I'm very independent.
Right.
I have
Right.
my own house. I
Right.
have my own car, and we're living in what was my own house, and
Right,
driving
right.
what was my
My own,
car.
right.
So, I just could not understand how he felt that he had that right just because he was a man. And I would stress that to him. Just because you are a male, it doesn't give you that authority in my life.
And again, as I'm listening to you talk, you dated for almost 3 years before you got married, and none of these things showed themselves.
No.
Wow.
No. But narcissists show you what they
Yep.
want to show you
Yep.
when they want to show you.
Yeah.
And then when their back is against the wall, that's when you see the real them.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
When they're exposed, we'll say.
Yeah. All right, we have a few more minutes. Give us a couple more on there if you can think of any other examples. Because again, I want the listeners to hear these characteristics and examples so that they can see, okay, I've never been pushed or punched or anything, but
Emotional abuse, the putting down. So with my confidence level. It's a little hard to do, but he would try, and then it would be, well, you're just a horrible wife. You won't even cook your husband dinner tonight, but you'll go out here and you'll do Bible study with these women, and you'll teach line dancing while he's sitting home not working, and I'm working like full jobs.
Yeah.
Right. Things like that as well. Intimidation. I think more from the power, they're taking the power from me. And who leaves with someone's purse?
Right.
Keys. Phone.
Right.
Same thing. Economic abuse. I don't have the money. Sorry. Go to the casino, gamble it away, come back, and how am I supposed to pay bills?
Right.
And making me pretty much figure it out for myself, but still wanting to be the king of the castle.
Wow. Wow. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you see yourself in here, just know that this is a form of abuse. And again, love, I just want to say we're coming up against another break. Love is a choice. Love is not something that we always say, I fall in there. It actually is something that we choose to do. It is a choice. And and I say this every time I do these shows, the Bible says there is no fear in love. And if you feel like, if I don't do this, I'm afraid that then this is going to happen, that's abuse. It's not love. And again, not to get churchy and preachy, but all those things that 1 Corinthians 13 talks about. Love is patient, it's kind, it's not puffed up, it doesn't envy. You know what I mean? And I know that there was some envy going on, some competition almost that was going on. Love doesn't do that. Love doesn't keep a record of all the wrongs that you've done. And so again, if you see yourself in these patterns, get help. That's all I'm going to say. Get help. Get help. Just know that there is help out there. Get help. We'll talk about some of the help that is available, and then we'll talk about what advice you have, what words of wisdom you have for women that find themselves in this. I can't believe we're coming up against another break. We got one more segment. Okay. We'll be back with more of The Other Side with K-Row in the Public Interest right after this. My guest is Lady Stephanie.
Exxon and Mobil present How to Be Supremium. First, fill your tank with Exxon and Mobil's Supremium Fuel. New Synergy Supreme Plus. It keeps your engine 2 times cleaner for better gas mileage. Then get the rest of your car 2 times cleaner. My rims are so shiny they can be seen from space. I saw pictures. So clean your engine with new Exxon and Mobil Synergy Supreme Plus. It's supreme. It's premium. It's Supremium. Fill up today or go to Exxon.com for details.
Synergy Supreme Plus gas compared to Synergy regular gas and poor fuel injected engines. Benefits based on continuous use and may vary.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
Back with The Other Side with K-Row in the Public Interest. My special guest is Lady Stephanie. We're talking about domestic violence awareness. Now, during the break, because I want to talk about the help that's available, I'm going to talk about get your words of wisdom and advice that you have for people that might be in that situation now, or maybe got out of it but still haven't gotten any help. But during the break, you said you were not fearful until the end. What made you afraid, and why then?
Once I decided I wanted a divorce, then it was the back and forth. Well, let's go away. Let's spend some time in wherever. And then it was the cursing and the screaming and the threats. Once he started making the threats, I had to take them seriously. And
now, what did he actually threaten you with?
Well, he went on Facebook and just put a whole bunch of horrible stuff on there. And then it was he was coming to the place where I line dance. And he says, who knows, it might be with a car, it might be with a gun, who knows, but I'll see you at the hall or whatever he called it. And that's when security was hired. I went to the police station. I got the, protective order.
Right.
And then once I sat down and I spoke with the woman from the Providence House, and they took me through the counseling, teaching me, to always have a bag packed and the different things that you need to do in the event that you have to escape. When I would leave my house, instead of opening the garage door, which was normally my practice, I would get in the car, lock the door, and then open the door, because I never knew whether he was going to be there, and that was the fearful part. And I honestly still have that anxiety
Do you
when
really?
I walk in my garage, because I just said to someone the other day, I wonder when this will ever go away. I had to notify my job, so that they would know not to let him in, because I don't know what he would do. And I never walked around in that kind of fear. But when a person makes threats like that, you really don't know what they're capable of,
So, 2 questions. Do you still have the protective order in?
It's permanent.
Okay. And then my second question is, with him making threats like that, those are considered terroristic threats. Was there a warrant put out for his arrest?
Yes, and he was arrested.
Oh, he was arrested.
He was arrested when
Okay.
he came back to New Jersey, because when they served him, I believe, I don't know if it was when they were serving him the divorce papers or something, they informed him that there was a warrant. So he came to New Jersey and they locked him up. They wouldn't lock him up in Maryland, but they did lock him up here. And once he was locked up, he had to be fingerprinted. And now New Jersey has something where you actually become a registered domestic violence offender.
I love it.
So if
I
have a code on my phone.
So there's a registry just like sex offenders.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. So if he's ever picked up for any reason, he's near me, I'm notified. I have a code
I love
that
it.
I have to type in to says that I receive it, and then they give me information like, if you feel like you're in, an unsafe place, find safety, notify us and we'll make sure you're covered. And then I work and I live in the same district, so the police officers know me well.
Right.
So they would put, extra coverage and make sure I was, well protected.
Right. And a lot of women don't have that though. And so the fear is real. And the most dangerous time for a woman who is being abused is when they finally make that decision. This is it. I've had enough and I'm leaving and I'm separating from you. I'm divorcing you, whatever. That is the most dangerous period, because then that's when they see, I no longer have control.
Right.
And then that's when they make the threats, and sometimes, like you say, they do carry through with them.
Right.
And so talk about some of those safety things. You just kind of briefly went over the bag and all those things. Talk about some of those safety things, because some women, again, are listening and perhaps they're there and they don't know about the line is, and I used to know the number by heart, 1-800 something safe. I'll get that number, but tell them about the precautions that they need to have and what needs to be in that bag.
Okay, so there's actually an app that they tell you to download, and I can push one button, and however many people I have connected to that will receive notification that I need help.
I love
It will give them my location and everything. That's one thing that I have on my phone.
Do you know what the name of the app is?
No, but I could pull it up. 'Cause I haven't had to use it, thank God.
Oh, yeah.
But in the bag, you should have clothing, any medication. You should have a copy of your credit cards in the event that you don't have credit cards, and you should always have cash on hand.
Right. And also any important papers, identification. If you have children, you need to have your children's birth certificates and social security cards and all that kind of
They
stuff.
didn't tell me to have that much, but I mean, I guess
if you have small children, I know.
Small children, right.
Yes, I know if you have small children that you're going to be taking with you, you need to have identification so that, if they put you in a shelter or whatever and you have to register them at school, those are things that you need to have. And then, like you say, cash. You need to have cash.
Yes.
And then things like, you have to think about your surroundings. So like you say, you just get in the car, you open the garage door, but now you have to think, get in the car, start it, lock the doors, and then open the garage door.
Yes, I teach line dance on Mondays, and I was coming home, and one of the ladies from my class followed me but she was driving like really fast. And I'm looking in my mirror and I'm wondering where this car came from. And when I put my blinker on at the last minute, she didn't put a blinker on, she just turned. So my heart is racing at this point because I'm not sure. And then she pulled up, she was like, I hope I didn't scare you, but I forgot to pay. Like, girl, you could have kept that little $6.
I know,
yes,
right?
yes, but so that thing, it's real. It's real. I have less anxiety with it now. I mean, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with anxiety, but it's like a nervous feeling in your chest, almost like a quivering inside. That's something that you typically have when you're feeling fearful.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I have it less now than
Okay.
I did then, but there are times when, it goes through my mind.
Wow, I can't believe we only have 3 minutes left. So what advice, what words of wisdom would you give to women and men that may be finding themselves anywhere in the process of this domestic abuse?
I would say the first thing is and it's one thing to love, but if you're loving someone at your expense, that's not love.
Yeah.
And if that person's not returning that, I would say communicate with someone. Find someone that you can communicate with. And you can't talk to just anyone.
Right.
I thought that the Providence House was a great resource. I even went to a counselor through my health insurance, and I did not like that counseling that was provided as much as the Providence House. And it's free.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's free. Great resources. I would say those would be the main things that I would advise, and never let what someone else says override your intuition. Because you get that gut feeling, and again with me, I felt like it was the godly thing to do, trying to help and do my part, not wanting to bail out, but it wasn't. I was definitely in it too long.
Right, and one of the things that you said that is key, you said at the beginning that if you're doing anything at the expense of your own self, your own self-worth, your own self-health, yes, emotional health, psychological health, physical health, then, when we are on a plane, and I fly a lot, and you probably do too, and they give you that whole spiel of in an accident that you give yourself oxygen first, and then help. Yes, so that always self-preservation. And I know in the church we don't like to think about that. Like we always think others. But we can't help others if we ourselves are being hurt and wounded and injured. Absolutely. And so...
and there's so much judgment in the church. Yeah. I think people would be willing to be honest if there was less judgment.
I agree. And the thing of it is, and I tell my congregation this all the time, is that secrecy really gives more power to these things, but when we start talking about it, we find out that we're not the only ones. Right. Let the judgmental people go on and be judgmental, but we're going to get healthy. We're going to get the help. We're out of time. I can't believe it. Lady Stephanie, thank you so much. Do you want to give your contact information in case somebody wants to contact you on social media or anything like that? And if not, that's fine too.
I really don't know what it is to just give it. Okay. But you could post it later or provide it.
Okay.
Never know what my name
because
is
she does do public speaking and motivational speaking and line dancing and all that good stuff. We got 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you so much. You've been listening to The Other Side with K-Row in the Public Interest. Thank you so much.
In the Public Interest on Trenton Talks is a program that explores different topics that are of interest to you. In the Public Interest on Trenton Talks can be heard every Tuesday night on 1300 WIMG at 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. and seen on WPHY 25. This is a service of WPHY Channel 25 and the Morris Broadcasting Company.